By the time I pulled up to my own house that evening and saw a car I didn't recognize sitting in my driveway, I finally understood what my daughter-in-law, Diane, had been trying to tell me at 6 that morning. My name is Carl Haney. I'm 67 years old, retired engineer, Tacoma, Washington. I spent 35 years solving problems on paper before they became problems in real life. That habit never really leaves you. Diane called me before I'd even had coffee. "Carl, please don't go home today." Her voice was low, careful. Not the kind of careful that means someone's being polite, the kind that means they're scared. "If you come back during the day," she said, "she'll finish before you get there." Then she went quiet. I stood in my kitchen holding the phone, staring at nothing. My mind went straight back to the night before. It had been my birthday. My daughter Claire drove up from Portland, first visit in almost 2 years. She showed up with wine and a smile I didn't recognize, the kind that stays a little too steady. She kept the glasses filled, kept the conversation moving, laughed at things that weren't that funny. I remember sitting across the table thinking she was performing something rather than just being there. The question started after dinner. "Dad, is the house still just in your name?" She said it lightly, like it was nothing. "Everything's organized," I told her. "Neil handled all of it." A few minutes later, "Did you ever move those investment accounts into a trust?" "I always thought you should, especially with everything you and Mom built." I told her I'd been looking into it. What Claire didn't know was that I'd already done it. My attorney, Neil Graves, had prepared the revocable living trust 3 weeks earlier. That same night, while Claire was still in the living room, I had walked back to my office and signed the final pages, the house, the brokerage accounts. The inheritance my late wife left behind. All of it moved into the trust. Neil filed everything electronically before midnight. When I came back to the living room, Claire was standing near my desk. She straightened up fast when she heard me. "Just looking for a pen," she said. I nodded and sat down. Didn't say anything else, but that image stayed with me the rest of the night. I drove to the office the next morning the same as always. Routine helps when your mind is working hard on something it hasn't figured out yet, but Diane's voice kept coming back. "She'll finish before you get there." By 9 that morning, I had Neil on the phone. Diane called me before work, I told him. She said not to go home. Neil didn't jump to anything. He asked a few questions, then said, "Hold on." I could hear him pulling up records while we stayed on the line. After about a minute, his voice shifted. Still calm, but focused in a different way. "Someone ran a title history search on your property last night. The request came from an IP address registered to your home network. Timestamp is 11:47 p.m. I hadn't been near a computer after dinner." "That wasn't me," I said. "I didn't think so," Neil said. "There's something else. A power of attorney document was submitted to your bank this morning. Your name is listed as the authorizing party. The notary stamp traces to a mobile service here in Tacoma." I let out a slow breath. "I didn't file anything." "I know," Neil said. Then after a pause, "Carl, don't do anything yet. Don't call her. Don't go home. Let her think it worked." That last part stopped me. Neil explained it carefully. The trust was already filed and solid. Claire couldn't touch anything that mattered. But if we shut it down right now, she'd call it a misunderstanding, a clerical mix-up, her word against the paperwork, and nothing on the record that showed clear intent. We needed her to keep going long enough that the intent became undeniable. The account she'd targeted in the forged POA was a secondary checking account I kept outside the trust, older, lower balance, the kind that looks like easy access if you're scanning records in a hurry. Neil had already contacted the bank's fraud unit that morning. Any attempt to access or transfer funds would trigger an automatic freeze and a time-stamped alert logged to the fraud file. What Claire didn't know was that the account had less than $300 in it. She also didn't know that every step she took from that point forward was being recorded. I went back to work. I answered emails. I ate a sandwich at my desk around noon and tried not to watch the clock. Scott called me around 11. My son, Claire's younger brother. He didn't know what was going on. He just wanted to check in, said Claire had mentioned stopping by to see me. I told him everything was fine. I kept it short. I'd been thinking about Scott too. He'd warned me once, in his careful way, that Claire's divorce had gotten expensive. He hadn't said much more than that. I hadn't pushed. Parents learn over time that asking too many questions sometimes closes doors faster than it opens them. I wished I'd pushed a little harder. At 2:14 in the afternoon, Neil called back. "She's at the branch," he said. The bank flagged the transaction when she tried to initiate a transfer. They've asked her to stay for identity verification. I closed my laptop, told my colleague I had something personal to deal with, and walked out to my car. The drive to the bank took about 15 minutes. I kept both hands on the wheel and didn't turn on the radio. I thought about Claire the whole way there. Not the Claire from last night, the one with the steady smile and the rehearsed questions. I thought about the Claire who was 9 years old and used to sit on the tailgate of my truck while I worked in the garage on weekends. The one who called me every Sunday for years after her mother passed. the one I had helped move 3 times in 6 years because she kept starting over somewhere new. I had never said no to her, not once in 39 years. The first time she asked me for money directly was about 8 months ago. She needed $12,000 to cover some costs related to the divorce. I gave it to her without asking for details. She thanked me and said she'd pay it back. I told her not to worry about it. 3 months after that, she called again. Another $8,000 attorney retainer. I sent it the same week. After that call, I mentioned it to Scott. He went quiet for a second, then said Claire's situation was more complicated than she'd let on. Her husband's attorney had been aggressive from the start. The legal fees had compounded fast. Between what she'd borrowed from me, what she'd pulled from her own savings, and a personal loan she'd taken out in the fall, she was somewhere around $85,000 in the hole with no clear way out. I didn't call Claire after that conversation. I didn't want to make her feel like I was keeping score, but I did call Neil. I told him I wanted to make sure everything was in order. The house, the accounts, the trust paperwork we'd been putting off for 2 years. Neil had been telling me for a while that I needed to get it done. I finally listened. I pulled into the bank parking lot and sat in the car for a moment before going in. The branch was a mid-size one, the kind with a row of teller windows on one side and a few private desks along the wall for more involved conversations. When I walked through the door, I saw Claire immediately. She was seated at one of those side desks across from a branch manager named Lori, according to the nameplate on the desk. Claire had a folder open in front of her and was talking in a low, measured tone. She looked up when I walked in. The change in her face happened fast. Surprise first. Then something that tried very hard to look like relief. Dad. She stood halfway out of the chair. I was just trying to protect your accounts. With everything going on, I thought if something happened to you and nothing was set up properly, it could take months to sort out. I was trying to help. I walked to the desk and set a folder down between us. I didn't sit. Inside the folder was a printed copy of the Power of Attorney submission. Her name was listed as preparer. The notary stamp traced back to a mobile notary service she had contacted 4 days before my birthday dinner. Behind that was the bank's own access log showing the county title search for my home IP address at 11:47 p.m., the night of the party. Behind that was a printed copy of a phone call transcript. Diane had recorded a conversation 3 weeks earlier. Claire had been on the phone with someone, and the audio was clear enough that every word came through without difficulty. The transcript read, "Once I get access, I move the funds before he notices. He's 67. By the time he figures out how to dispute it, the money's already gone." Claire looked at the transcript. She didn't speak for a long moment. Lori, the branch manager, closed the folder on her side of the desk quietly and excused herself. She didn't go far. I could see her speaking to a colleague near the teller windows, both of them keeping their voices down. Claire sat back in her chair. The performance from the night before was gone. What was left looked tired and small in a way I hadn't seen from her before. "You don't understand how bad things have gotten," she said. Her voice had dropped to something close to a whisper. The attorney fees kept adding up and I didn't know what else to do. I wasn't going to take everything. I just needed enough to get through the next few months. I looked at her for a moment without speaking. She had planned this for weeks. She had driven up from Portland with a bottle of wine and a script. She had sat across from me at my own birthday dinner and asked careful questions about my accounts while Diane sat in the same room. She had waited until 11 at night to search my property records on my own Wi-Fi. And the next morning, before I had even gotten to the office, she had walked into this bank with a document that carried my forged signature. "I know how bad it got," I told her. "I sent you $20,000 when you asked. You didn't have to do this." Claire looked at the table. I closed the folder. "You did this anyway." I picked up the folder, nodded once to Lori on my way past the teller windows, and walked back out to my car. Neil called before I even started the engine. The bank had already flagged the submission for their fraud unit. The documentation I had provided would be added to the file. There would be a follow-up process. He would handle the details on his end. I thanked him and drove home. Diane was already at the house when I got back. She was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. When I came through the door, she looked up and I could tell she'd been waiting a while, not sure what kind of news I was going to bring back with me. I set my keys on the counter and sat down across from her. "It's handled," I said. "For now." She nodded slowly. Her hands were wrapped around the coffee mug even though it had gone cold. "I need to explain some things," she said. I told her to take her time. She had found a folder in Claire's bag about 3 weeks before my birthday. Claire had stopped by the house one afternoon while Scott was at work. She'd left her bag on the kitchen counter while she used the bathroom, and when it slipped off the counter, the folder inside fell open on the floor. Diane had picked it up. The top page had my name on it and the words property authorization printed across the header. She hadn't said anything to Scott right away. She wasn't sure what she was looking at. She told herself it might be something innocent. Maybe Claire was helping me with paperwork, maybe there was an explanation she didn't know about. But then she started paying attention to other things. The phone calls Claire was making from the driveway when she visited. The questions Claire kept circling back to about whether I had a financial advisor, whether I used the same bank I'd always used, whether I'd ever talked about updating my will. Small questions, spread out, the kind that don't raise a flag by themselves, but start to add up when you're watching closely. 3 weeks before my birthday, Diane recorded a phone call. She had walked past the guest room and heard Claire's voice through the door, louder than usual. She stopped in the hallway and held up her phone. She placed her phone on the table now and opened the audio file. Claire's voice came through clearly. Once I get access, I move the funds before he notices. He's 67. By the time he figures out how to dispute it, the money's already gone. A short pause on the recording. Then the other voice, a man I didn't recognize, said something about timing. Claire's response, "The birthday dinner is perfect. He'll be relaxed. I just need one night in that house." Diane stopped the playback and set the phone down. "I recorded one more after that," she said. A week later, same thing, more specific about which accounts. I sat with that for a moment. "Why didn't you tell Scott?" I asked. She looked at her hands. "I almost did, but Scott and Claire are close. They've always been close. I didn't want to put him in the middle of something before I knew for certain what I was dealing with. And I was scared he wouldn't believe me." That was an honest answer. I respected it. "When did you decide to call me this morning?" I asked. "Last night," she said. "After the dinner, I watched her at that table asking you those questions, and I could see exactly what she was doing. And then you went back to your office for a while, and when you came out, she was standing near your desk. Diane looked up at me. I knew she was going to move fast. So I set my alarm for 5:30 and called you as early as I could. I thought about what it had taken for her to make that call. Diane had been part of this family for 9 years. She and Claire had never been close, but they had always been civil. Making that call meant she was willing to blow all of that up, with no guarantee I would believe her, no guarantee it would change anything. "You could have stayed out of it," I said. "Nobody would have blamed you." She shook her head. "I would have blamed me." We sat there for a while after that without talking much. I made a fresh pot of coffee and we both drank it at the kitchen table while the light outside shifted from afternoon to early evening. Scott called around 7. He'd heard from Claire. He didn't know the full story yet, but he knew something had happened at the bank. His voice was tight when I answered. "Dad, what's going on?" I told him to come over. I said I'd explain everything in person and that he needed to hear it directly from me rather than from anyone else. He arrived 20 minutes later. Diane stayed at the table while I walked Scott through it from the beginning. The birthday dinner, the title search from my home network, the forged POA submission, the folder of evidence Neil and I had put together, the conversation Diane had recorded 3 weeks earlier. Scott listened without interrupting. He's always been that way, quiet when he's processing something hard. By the time I finished, he was staring at the table with his jaw tight. "I didn't know it had gone that far," he said finally. "I know." I told him, "She asked me a few months ago if you had a will. I thought she was just being cautious." He stopped. "I should have told you. You didn't have the whole picture," I said. "Neither did I." He looked over at Diane. Something passed between them that I didn't try to read. That was between the two of them. What I knew was that my son was sitting at my kitchen table trying to figure out how to carry two things at once. The fact that his father was okay and the fact that his sister had done this, that's not a simple thing to hold. I didn't rush him through it. Claire's response came 10 days later. Her attorney filed a motion to challenge the trust. The claim was that I had signed the documents without fully understanding what I was agreeing to. The legal language used the phrase cognitive decline twice in the first 2 pages. Neil called me the morning it was filed. He read me the relevant sections over the phone in his steady, unhurried way. When he finished, I asked him what he thought. "I think they're hoping you'll settle rather than go through a hearing," he said. "It's a pressure move. The evidence behind it is thin." I told him to prepare for the hearing. The preliminary session was scheduled for a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks out. I drove myself. Neil met me in the hallway outside the courtroom and we went over the sequence one more time before going in. He had prepared a full documentation package. 3 years of consistent financial records, tax filings, investment adjustments, property decisions, all of it organized and dated. He had the bank fraud alert log. He had the IP access record from the night of my birthday. And he had both of Diane's recordings. Claire was already seated when we walked in. She was at a table on the other side of the room with her attorney, a man named Pollard, who had the practiced calm of someone used to making thin cases sound reasonable. Claire was dressed neatly and kept her hands folded on the table. She didn't look at me when I sat down. Pollard opened with a prepared statement about the trust documents. He described them as sodden and out of character. said I had signed them the same night as a social gathering when I might not have been in the best state to make major financial decisions. He used words like concerning and uncharacteristic several times. When it was Claire's turn to speak, she kept her voice low and careful. "My father has been more forgetful lately," she said. "He repeats himself sometimes. He's mentioned losing track of things around the house. I've been worried about him for a while. When I found out he'd signed documents that same night, I was concerned he didn't fully understand what he was agreeing to." She paused. "I was trying to look out for him. That's all I've ever been trying to do." The room was quiet while she spoke. Pollard nodded along. A court clerk near the wall was typing notes without looking up. I sat still and listened. I've been in enough project reviews and contract meetings over 35 years to know that the first person to respond emotionally usually loses the room. So I let her finish. I let Pollard finish. And then Neil stood up. He started with the financial records. 3 years of documented decisions, a refinance I had managed on my own, 2 investment rebalances I had handled with my broker, a property tax appeal I had filed and won without any assistance. All of it precise, all of it consistent, all of it dated well within the window Claire was describing as a period of decline. Then he submitted the bank fraud log, the time-stamped record of the forged POA submission, the notary service Claire had booked 4 days before my birthday, the account access attempt, the freeze. Then he submitted the IP record, title history search, my home network, 11:47 p.m., the night of the party. Pollard objected twice during this portion. The judge noted both objections and moved on. Then Neil placed a small recording device on the table and looked toward the judge. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit 2 audio recordings provided by Diane Haney, daughter-in-law of the petitioner. Both were recorded during private conversations between Diane Haney and the respondent, Claire Haney, in the weeks prior to the events in question." The judge nodded. Neil pressed play. The first recording was shorter. Claire's voice asking about my accounts, my bank, whether I had updated my will. Diana's careful answers giving nothing away. It was low-key on its own, suggestive but not decisive. Then Neil played the second one. Claire's voice came through clearly in the quiet room. "Once I get access, I move the funds before he notices. He's 67. By the time he figures out how to dispute it, the money's already gone." Nobody moved while the audio played. When it ended, Neil turned off the device and stepped back from the table. Claire was staring straight ahead. Pollard had stopped writing. The court clerk had paused on her keyboard. The judge leaned back and looked at the ceiling for a moment, then down at the papers in front of him. He flipped back 1 page, then forward again. He looked at Pollard. "Counselor, do you want a recess to confer with your client?" Pollard said yes. They came back 20 minutes later and withdrew the motion. Neil and I walked out to the hallway together. He didn't say much. He's not the type to make a big moment out of something that had already been decided by the evidence. He just straightened his jacket and said he'd send over the final documentation summary by end of week. I thanked him and we shook hands. On the drive home, I kept both hands on the wheel and didn't turn on the radio. Same as the drive to the bank. Some days just feel like that. You go through them one task at a time, and when they're finished, you drive home in the quiet and let it settle. The trust was confirmed valid. The bank fraud referral was moving through a separate process. Neil said that part could take several more months, and there was nothing for me to do but wait. I was fine with waiting. I had gotten good at it. Claire's divorce proceeding had already been difficult before any of this. Once the fraud documentation entered that record, it became significantly more complicated. Her attorney Pollard withdrew from the divorce case 2 weeks after the hearing. I heard that through Scott, who heard it from Claire, who was not handling any of it well. Some relatives called me over the following weeks. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in years said I had been too hard on her. An aunt on my late wife's side said she understood why I did what I did, but wished it hadn't come to a courtroom. I listened to both of them without arguing. People see the same situation from where they're standing, and where they're standing is never exactly where you are. Scott came by for dinner one evening about a month after the hearing. He and Diane sat at the same kitchen table where we'd all talked the night everything came out. We didn't bring up Claire directly. We talked about his work, about a project he was finishing up, about the weather turning. Normal things. But before he left, he stopped in the doorway and looked back at me. "I keep thinking about what would have happened if Diane hadn't called you," he said. I nodded. "I'd thought about that too. You would have figured it out eventually." Diane said from the kitchen. "Maybe," I told him, "but not in time." He left and I stood at the door for a moment after his headlights disappeared down the street. About 6 weeks after the hearing, I got an email from Claire. It came in on a Thursday evening while I was sitting in the living room with a cup of coffee. "I know I made mistakes," it read, "but you didn't have to let it go this far. I would have stopped. I just needed you to talk to me first." I read it twice. Then I closed the laptop and set it on the side table. I sat there for a while after that. Not angry, not particularly sad either, just thinking. She had driven up from Portland with a plan she'd spent weeks preparing. She had sat at my birthday table and asked careful questions designed to confirm what she needed to know. She had waited until nearly midnight to search my property records. She had booked a notary service 4 days in advance. She had walked into a bank branch with a document carrying my forged signature, and her explanation in the end was that I should have talked to her first. I didn't write back. Some things don't have a reply that makes any difference. I got up from the couch and walked into the living room. My wife's photograph is on the shelf above the fireplace, same place it has been for 6 years. It's a picture from a camping trip we took up near Mount Rainier maybe 20 years ago. She's laughing at something off to the left of the frame. I never found out what it was. I've always liked that about the photo. It catches her in the middle of something real. We built everything in this house together. The accounts, the property, the investments, the life, 38 years of working towards something solid and trying to leave it in good shape for the people who came after us. That was always the point. I looked at that photograph for a while and thought about Diane's call at 6 that morning. The way her voice had been careful and scared at the same time. The way she'd said she'll finish before you get there and then gone quiet, leaving it to me to figure out what to do next. She had weighed everything before she made that call. Her marriage, her relationship with Claire, her place in this family. She had measured all of it and called me anyway, before 6 in the morning because she couldn't find a version of staying quiet that she could live with. My wife used to say that real loyalty doesn't make a speech. It just shows up at the wrong hour and does the thing that needed doing. She said you don't always recognize it right away. Sometimes you only understand it later when you're sitting somewhere quiet and going back over how things actually went. She was right about that. She was right about most things. If this story stayed with you, leave a comment below. Maybe you've been in a situation where someone caught something before it was too late, or maybe you've been the one who had to make a hard call with no guarantee anyone would listen. Either way, I'd like to hear about it, and if you found this useful, hit like and follow. There are more stories like this one, and the next one might be exactly what somebody in your life needs to hear right now.